What's up everybody, how are you doing today? Today I'm gonna be doing my first ever video on this channel. I'm gonna be doing my mock draft 1.0. I'm gonna include trades. There's only 3 trades in this one, but maybe next time I'm gonna do one with more or less trades. But I wanted to include trades just for realism. I don't think you can have a mock draft without including trades. It would just be kind of work for nothing. So we are the 25th of March, if you were wondering, if there's other free agency signing after that. Free agency is almost done. There's still 1 or 2 big names available that maybe could change how I did my mock draft, but for now it's a mock draft, post free agency mock draft. So at number 1, it's a no-brainer. I don't think any other people would put any other people. It's Trevor Lawrence is the obvious pick. He's the best prospect in this year's draft. He's probably the best prospect ever since Andrew Luck. He's comparable to Troy Aikman and John Elway, as in how much of an impact he can make on a team. I do think he can be the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't think he will, but he has the talent to be. It's a no-brainer. Any other pick would be a colossal mistake by the Jaguars. Number 2, also, I do think he is the clear-cut, obvious pick for the Jets. Sam Darnold hasn't panned out. I do think his ceiling is higher than other people in his class like Baker Mayfield, but he just has such a low floor, and he cannot just process the information and play a quarterback like he should be playing with the talent that he has. So I think it's time for Darnold to study under a veteran and maybe come back a year or 2 after. I like him as a fit in San Francisco or in Tampa Bay, but he cannot be the starter for the Jets next year. It's been 3 years and he hasn't done anything to prove that he's worth the 3rd pick that he got drafted at. While as Zach Wilson, to me, is a way better prospect. He's the best improviser in this year's draft. His ability to throw on the run is unmatched. He's comparable to Russell Wilson day 1. That's how good I think he will be. And I do think he's the 2nd best player in this year's draft. At number 3, we have the Miami Dolphins taking Penei Sewell, the tackle out of Oregon. So I do also think this one is a no-brainer. I don't see them getting any other players. Jamar Chase would have been good before the Will Fuller signing. I know it's only a 1-year deal, but I do think they're going to re-sign him depending on how good he is. But the Will Fuller signing, to me, said that the Dolphins are going to pursue offensive line in this year's draft, and which better prospect than Penei Sewell? I think he's a can't-miss prospect. He can play left tackle. I do like him as a right tackle in the Dolphins scheme, considering that Tua is a lefty. You want your best offensive lineman to protect the blind side of your quarterback, especially when your quarterback is so fragile. Tua has some injury concerns. So building up this offensive line is the best way to go for the Dolphins. And when a guy like Penei Sewell is available, it's not every day that you have a contending team plus the 3rd overall pick plus that good of an offensive lineman prospect. So any other pick for me would be a mistake. Jamar Chase would make a little sense, but even that, I wouldn't like the pick if it's not Penei Sewell. At number 4, I got the Falcons taking Trey Lance, quarterback out of North Dakota State. So this one might come as a shocker considering that Justin Fields is still on the board, but I have my explanation. So Matt Ryan is under contract for the next 2 or 3 years. I don't exactly remember. So that means that any other QB that would get drafted by the Falcons would be kind of an understudy, and I do think it would be a waste of talent for Justin Fields, and I do think Trey Lance would benefit from it. So it's kind of, Justin Fields wouldn't benefit from it as much as Trey Lance. I do think his ceiling of Trey Lance's ceiling is way higher than Justin Fields. I do think where he lacks in his game is Matt Ryan's strength, which is managing the ball, progressing through your reads, and I do think they complement very well each other as a mentor and understudy. So I like him a lot as a backup for the Falcons for the next 2 years and to take over in Atlanta in 2023. At number 5, I have the Bengals taking Jamar Chase, the wide receiver out of LSU. Tyler Boyd is probably one of the best slot receiver in the league. T. Higgins was very surprising last year. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1, but I do think he can be wide receiver 2. But they've been looking for a wide receiver 1 ever since AJ Green got injured. John Ross was a total bust, and now it's time to bring the best wide receiver prospects is Julio Jones. I think he's gonna be a game wrecker day 1. He's the #1 wide receiver in almost every team. I think he entered the leagues and he's already a top 10 receiver. That's how good I think he is. So the Bengals are going to take the best player available at this point. Now at number 6, the Eagles are going to take Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. So I like him as more of a weapon than a tight end. They have Dallas Goedert in the tight end spot, which is kind of a more traditional, slower, more best blocker tight end. Kyle Pitts is going to be a mismatch nightmare wherever you put him, in the slot, at tight end, or at wide receiver. And it's exactly what you want. And when you're the Eagles and you have that lack of, weapons and on offense, it's not normal that Travis Fulgham and Jalen Reagor are your wide receiver 1 and 2 are your best weapons. It's not normal when you're in an NFL team to have that little competition as a offensive weapon. So you bring the best weapon in this year's draft, the best weapon because of his versatility and because of how much of a nightmare he is to defend. So it's a no-brainer for me. He's the best player available at this point. At number 7, the Detroit Lions are going to take Devontae Smith, the wide receiver out of Alabama. So the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, is going to go to Detroit after parting ways with Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. They have probably one of the weakest wide receiver core in the draft, so they get, the more polished prospect, the one who's been known to be a winner. It's not every year that you see a wide receiver winning the Heisman. I don't remember the last time it happens. I think it was one of the first, if not the first. So that should tell you how much of a game changer he's going to be in the NFL. I do think he's the wide receiver 1 in the Lions scheme. Tyrell Williams is okay, I guess. And after that, I don't even know who their wide receiver 2 is currently. So this wide receiver room has been tempered by free agency. So it's time to bring a guy like Devontae Smith to be, the starter for years to come. At number 8, the Panthers are going to take Patrick Surtain out of Alabama. He just lit up his pro day, and that just got his stock very high. I do think he's the best corner in this year's draft by far. He's a very physical corner. He reminds me a lot of Marlon Humphreys from the Baltimore Ravens. He's a great tackler. He has good ball skill. I do think he needs to develop a little bit more, but which corner prospect is very pro ready is kind of a question. Ever since Marshawn Lattimore, we've not seen a rookie corner have that much of an impact on the field. So I think he's gonna have a year or two to develop, but once it's been developed, once he's developed, I do think he's gonna be a game changer and one of the best in the league. Now we have a trade for the number 9th pick. The Broncos are gonna trade down with the 49ers, and the Niners are gonna get the number 9th pick and a 7th round pick, the 238th in this year's draft. And the Broncos are gonna get a 5th in 2021 and a 2nd in 2022. So with the 9th pick, the Niners are gonna take Justin Fields out of Ohio State. I have him falling a little bit because I do think he is a little bit less good than critics make him. He has some problem processing through reads. He often locked on his first read, but with his skill set and athleticism, I like him a lot in this Kyle Shanahan scheme. I wanted Shanahan to have a mobile QB for the longest time, and now that you got a guy like Justin Fields falling down on the board, you got to trade up to get him. I do think the Broncos get good value. I don't think the Broncos are going to draft a QB, and that's not because they don't need one. I just don't see it happening. They're not going to give up on Drew Luck after 2 years. John Elway isn't a big fan of mobile QB. I think he likes his QB a bit wider, if you say. He's more of a statue, a big arm guy, and Justin Fields is far from a statue and a big arm guy. So I like him as a Niner more. I like the fit as a Niners, and I don't like the pick as a Broncos. And by the way, this mock draft isn't what I would do, it's what I think would happen. So I don't put myself in the GM shoes, but I try to predict what the GMs will do. So that's why because the obvious pick is, the Broncos are going to take Justin Fields, but I don't think it's going to happen. Number 10, the Cowboys are going to take Caleb Farley. So he's been falling down boards because of his injury concerns. I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem for the Dallas front office. Let's remember they drafted Leighton Vander Esch, knowing full well he had a back issue. And, it looked like a great pick in his rookie year. He just needs to be on the field, and whenever he's on the field, he's a game changer. So I think that's about what Caleb Farley can bring to the table. I think he's a far better corner than JC Horn. JC Horn is very good, don't get me wrong, but I do think Caleb Farley and Patrick Surtain are the very clear-cut top 2 corner in the draft. Caleb Farley is more of a Jason Peters, not Marcus Peters, sorry, from the Ravens, who is a hit or miss on the field. So he's the best ball hawk corner in the draft, but he often gets beat because he tries too much to catch the ball, which kind of is a concern, but also is a proof of how much energy he puts into the game. I like him a lot as a fit for the Dallas scheme. At number 11, the Giants are going to take Rashawn Slater. They probably didn't expect him to be available at this point because of how well he did on his pro day. He can play everywhere on the offensive line. I like him more as a tackle, but he can play guard if, they want to keep Nate Solder, or, they want to put him at right tackle, left guard, or any position on the offensive line. He fits, and he's the best player available at this point probably for the Giants. And they need to protect their franchise QB Daniel Jones, because they signed him weapons this offseason. Now it's time to protect him. And with this draft, I do think the Giants are putting themselves in the consideration to win their division. Now at number 12, after trading down, the Denver Broncos are going to get the player that they probably would have drafted at number 9. He just lit up his pro day with a 4.34 40-yard dash. I think it was. It's hand timed, but it's still super impressive. Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State. So he's a great off-the-ball linebacker. He can play sideline to sideline, and he can also play in an edge rusher, which is very good. He kind of is an hybrid linebacker. He fits the Broncos schemes, and they've missed linebacker a lot. They haven't had a good cover linebacker for a long time, and it's time to change that culture, that regime. It's time to bring the field general that is Micah Parsons. At number 13, the Chargers are going to get Christian Darrisaw, the tackle out of Virginia Tech. I think he's the best run blocker in this year's draft. He's not that polished as a pass blocker, but as a run blocker, he is a game changer. That said, that can change with Brian Bulaga on the right tackle, that he can learn from. Brian Bulaga is a great pass blocker. So I like him as a fit on left tackle for the Chargers. They have holes everywhere on the offensive line, except for center after signing the former Packers center. But they have holes on left tackle, left guard, and right guard, and what better to fill than the left tackle position with Christian Darrisaw. At number 14, the Vikings probably wanted Darrisaw, but they get Elijah Vera-Tucker instead, which is the best interior lineman in this year's draft, if you count Rashawn Slater as a tackle, which I do. So I like him as a scheme. He's a plug-and-play guy. I don't think he's going to be that much of a game changer. I do think it's a bit of a reach. I have him as a top 25 talent, maybe not top 15. But where you have to draft from needs when you have this many holes, the Vikings cannot afford to just take the best player available, because, they are kind of in between regimes. They're not rebuilding, but they kind of need to soon. So building up an offensive line is a great way to start a rebuild, and I do think Vera-Tucker is a good pick at this point. Now at number 15, the New England Patriots are going to take Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver out of Alabama. So N'Keal Harry was a bust. I do think he will be traded before the draft or during the draft, which means that the wide receiver 1 position is still up for grabs. I like Nelson Aguilar as a deep threat, but I don't think he has that much versatility to his game. I do think he's just a straight line runner that can make, a post, a corner, and a fade. And that's why I like Jalen Waddle. He can play in the slot, he can play outside, and he can run every single route. He also has a better burst, and he's clearly the best player available at this point. I have him falling down because of injury. He tore his, I think it was his Achilles, and when he came back, he didn't look the same. So I do think teams are gonna be skeptical about him, but the Pats aren't gonna let him fall further than that. At number 16, the Cardinals are going to take JC Horn, so that pick made way more sense. I think it was a no-brainer before they signed Malcolm Butler. Now that they've secured that corner 1, corner 2 position, I think they can go either way, but a guy like JC Horn isn't is almost never the third best corner. He's either the first or the second in every year's draft, but this year's is a very good corner draft. So you get a guy like JC Horn at 16, which is a good value pick, and you fill the corner one position that you've missed ever since Peterson kind of fell off. So yeah, I think it's a very obvious pick for the Cards. I do think the Cards are gonna put in the card very quickly when they see that this guy is still available at their pick. At number 17, the Raiders surprisingly get the first edge rusher of the board, QuébecSteelers, out of Michigan. So it's kind of a surprise considering how important the position is that the first one of the board is only at 17. This year is very much an offensive draft. Edge rushers are kind of developmental players. There's very few polished and pro-ready rushers like QuébecSteelers is. He is 270 pounds, I think, but he moves like a 200-pound running back. He is impressive to look, and I do think he's a plug-and-play guy to replace maybe already Clelin Ferrell, who got outplayed by his fourth-round pick counterpart, Max Crosby. So at 18, the Dolphins are going to take Zaven Collins, the linebacker out of Tulsa. So this pick is probably my favorite in the draft because I like him a lot as a fit. My pro comparison for him is Kyle Van Noy. You don't really know if he's going to play off-the-ball linebacker or edge rusher, and he fits the hybrid scheme that Flores has implemented like a glove. I think he's the best fit. The best fit for Zaven Collins as a professional football team is the Miami Dolphins. So I don't think they're going to pass on him, even though it's kind of a reach considering that there's other linebackers available like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah who are better than him. But I like him way too much as a fit to pass on him. I think he is the best. He is the player in this year's draft that has the clear-cut best fit. And for me, it's Zaven Collins to the Dolphins. At number 19, the football team are gonna get their QB of the future, Mac Jones. So he reminds me a lot of Alex Smith, and that's why I like it as a football team scheme, because he kind of has athleticism but not that much. He kind of has an arm but not that much. He is great at processing read. I do think he's the best game manager in this year's draft. He probably has the least chance of busting because I don't think he has a high ceiling, but I just think he has the brain good enough to go through reads and distribute the ball like an Alex Smith or like a Kirk Cousins. So I think it's a good pick, and it surprised me that he fell this low in the draft. At number 20, we have the Bears taking Rashad Bateman. I think they're going to trade Allen Robinson, so they're going to need to fill the void at wide receiver 1. And they're going to take the best receiver available, which is Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. He can do it all. He's more of an outside wide receiver, of course. He's a great route runner. He doesn't have the downlight speed that a guy like Jamar Chase would have, but he has quickness and burst through the route, and he is a very good wide receiver 1 for the Chicago Bears. It's not often that the fourth receiver on the board is wide receiver 1 material like Rashad Bateman is. So at number 21, we have a trade. The Buffalo Bills are going to trade up with the Indianapolis Colts because the Colts, they see Darisaw and Vera Tucker getting drafted. And they see the difference in talent between the fourth and the fifth best offensive linemen, and they know they want to go there because it's been catastrophic. How much they lost in the last 2 years. So they're going to get an offensive lineman later, but they know that it would be a reach to draft one at 21. And the Buffalo Bills have a guy in mind. The guy they wanted is Jalen Phillips. The Buffalo Bills have settled for mediocrity at edge rusher for the longest time I can remember. It's time to get a game changer like Jalen Phillips. He's probably the more pro-ready edge rusher. He already has every single technique that you're supposed to ask a rookie edge rusher to have, and more. So he has some injury concerns, but I don't think the NFL takes concussion as seriously as UCLA can take him. So I like him as an edge rusher for the Buffalo Bills, and it's a good trade up because they need a guy like him they're probably an edge rusher away from a Super Bowl. So yeah, they get the guy that they wanted after trading up. The Tennessee Titans are going to take the other number 15 out of Miami, Gregory Rousseau. So they probably wanted Jalen Phillips. They're probably disappointed that the Bills kind of swooped in and traded up. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do in the NFL. So you're gonna get the best player at the position of need, which is edge rusher. And Gregory Rousseau is more of a project. He's not as pro ready as Jaelan Phillips is, but I do think his ceiling is a bit higher than Jaelan Phillips. So if they can develop him, he's gonna be a game changer for years to come. It's very rare that the 22nd pick in the draft is, you know, that much of a value, and I do think this year's draft is a very good one. At number 23, the New York Jets are going to take Jayla Mayfield, the tackle out of Michigan. So he is, I don't have anything to say very much about Jayla Mayfield. I do think he is not very worth a 23rd pick in the draft, but you got to draft with best player available or needs, and the Jets have a mega need at right tackle. Their offensive line is kind of been a mess outside of Mekhi Becton. So you get a guy like Jayla Mayfield to seal the two edges and, you know, to protect the quarterback of your future, which is Zach Wilson. At number 24, the Steelers are going to trade down, knowing that Jayla Mayfield got picked and the other linemen aren't as good as, you know, the top 4, top 5. So, and the Packers see a guy that's been falling that they really want, and it's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So the last year the Packers linebacker were a mess. They missed Blake Martinez a lot, and it's been kind of a roller coaster. They had very meh linebacker playing way too much snap for what they needed. So they get a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah who can play sideline to sideline, who can, you know, blitz, and he's gonna be a great fit in Green Bay. I do think he's gonna rack up some tackle like a monster. At number 25, the Jacksonville Jaguars are gonna take Travon Merrick. He's the best safety in this year's draft, but you know, safety isn't that much of a valued pick. So when you only have one pick in the draft, you don't get a safety. But since the Jaguars have two and they already addressed their biggest needs, which is quarterback, they're going to address their second needs with a very, very good Travon Merrick, which in my opinion is a top 20 player in this year's draft. He can do it all. He can play strong and free safety. He can also play slot corner, in my opinion. I do think he's a better scheme as a free safety, but he can play anywhere for the Jaguars, and they need safety kind of a lot. At number 26, the Browns are a very hard team to mock because they don't have many holes. I do think one future hole they're gonna get is interior D-line. Sheldon Richardson costs $13 million, and he's on his last year of his contract. So they either resign him, cut him, or you know, they draft Christian Barmore, which is what I have them doing. He's the best interior D-line in this year's draft. He can stop the run at an elite level, but he can also rush the passer a little bit. So he's a good scheme in the Browns. He's a good fit in the Browns scheme. He can play interior D-line too. For next season, and when Sheldon Richardson hits the free market, he's going to be the guy in Cleveland. At number 27, I had the Baltimore Ravens taking a swing at Jason Oweh, which is probably the most project kid in this year's draft. He has a high upside. He's a boomer bust prospect. I think he's gonna be good. I don't like the pick because I'm a Steelers fan, but I think his value at 27 is up the charts. I do think he's a top 5 pure talent in this year's draft, but he's also a top maybe 200 pro readiness. So they're gonna take a swing at him. They're gonna hope to develop him, and they're gonna need to fill a hole at edge rusher after losing Matthew Judon. So the pick makes sense to me. At number 28, the Saints are gonna take Rondale Moore, the wide receiver out of Purdue. He just jumped like, I think it was the entire length of his body, and his pro day, he was impressive. He's a bit small though, but he can fit as a slot wide receiver in the Saints scheme. Let Michael Thomas go outside and, you know, play ball a little bit. He was injured last year. He needs help. He needs a surrounding cast. He cannot be, you know, the man by himself, because teams are gonna, you know, double team him, and it's gonna be the end of the Saints offense. So they're gonna need other weapons. That's why I got them taking Rondale Moore, the speedster out of Purdue. At 29, the Steelers, after trading down, are gonna get their guy that they probably would have taken at 24, which is Tevin Jenkins, a tackle out of Oklahoma State. I think he's a good fit as a left tackle, and he can play right tackle too. So right now, I think Zach Banner is going to be the starter at right tackle, and at left tackle, we've yet to re-sign Alejandro Villanueva, but I think we will, which means that we can slide him at guard for now, or even at center. I'm not very sure how well he fits a center. But you know, we gotta draft O-line. It's clearly the biggest need that we have in this year's draft. So we're gonna address it by taking the best one available, which is Tevin Jenkins. At number 30, the Colts are gonna get Samuel Cosmi, the tackle out of Texas. I remember once a time that he was portrayed as a top 20 prospect, top 20 talent. I think he fell a little bit, considering that people have watched the tape. He gets beat a lot of the edge, but he fits the Colts left tackle after Costanzo's retirement. They kind of need one, so they're going to take the best one available. I think he's an early second talent, so you get him at 30. You get the 5th-year option if you want. It's a good pick all around for the Colts. At number 31, we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver out of LSU. So I don't think he's the 5th or 6th best wide receiver, but I do think he's the best fit for the Kansas City offense. They've had Tyreek Hill, they have Mecole Hardman, they have Kelsey. All they need is a big body wide receiver. They got Kelsey to create matchup nightmares in the middle of the field. They need one outside. Tyreek has speed, Mecole has speed. They need a sizable wide receiver. That's what they were lacking last year in their offense. And Terrace Marshall also don't have any drop issues, which means that he's not gonna recreate the fiasco that last year's Super Bowl was. And at number 32, I had the Buccaneers taking Najee Harris out of Alabama. The Buccaneers are a hard team to mock. They have very few needs, but when you let go of Leonard Fournette, which was a game changer in the Super Bowl, you get a guy that you can replace him, and Najee Harris is, to me, the best power back in the draft. I don't have him as my number 1 running back, but Travis Etienne's kind of does everything that Ronald Jones already do. So Najee Harris is more of a complement to the Buccaneers offense, and I think it's the good pick to make at 32. When you don't have holes, you take a luxury pick and you take the best player that fits your scheme. So thank you for watching. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these in the near future. So make sure to subscribe and hit the like if you liked it. Also, make sure to give me feedback in the comments. I'm here to learn. I'm not here to just, give me what I think and not hearing what you guys think of it. So yeah, make sure to give me feedback, give me suggestions, anything that you can do to help the channel. And until then, I see you in the next video.